Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Oh, newspapermen meet such interesting people. They know the lowdown, now it can be told. I'll tell you quite reliably off the record about some charming people I have known. For I meet politicians and grafters.
Well, normally when we play that theme, we have a newspaper man in the form of Josh Barnes, but he and we do need to push out any thought that the rumour that Rob and Josh have gone away together. They've gone to different places. Josh Barnes not with us today, but we are very excited to introduce his colleague, Matthew Forrest. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Very great pleasure to have you here and to get Barnesy's theme and all. That's exciting.
I know. I feel like I now need to live up to the expectation that Josh brings every week.
Yeah, well, there's not much to live up to. No, that's not fair. He's not here. We can't say that. Great to have you on board. Geelong Advertiser sports reporter like Barnesy, and thanks to Alex for arranging this. Alex, the sports editor. So let's start off with the important stuff. Tell us a bit about your career as a journo, where you've been and where you grew up and stuff.
So I started... I did my studies in Melbourne. I've been a Melbourne boy all my life, and when I finished my degree at the end of 2020, I moved up to Mackay in North Queensland and worked up there for just under 12 months before starting my Geelong gig in at the Addy at the start of March. So about 2 years into the career now, which I'm loving every second of it. It's been a whole heap of fun, and especially this year coming back down to Victoria and reporting on mainly Aussie rules footy in the form of, obviously the Geelong Cats, but also the local leagues in the GFL and the BFL and the GDFL. So that's been a whole lot of fun, and having the Cats win the flag as well has made work a whole lot easier.
And well done you for your professionalism. That's what I'm going to say, because full disclosure, I think I mentioned to you on the phone yesterday, I'm a Brisbane Lions supporter. Sienna, who do you follow?
Bulldogs.
Matthew Forrest, who do you follow?
I'm a Hawks fan, die hard as well. So it makes it difficult to follow the Cats every week and watch them be so good when I've grown up with it's been built into my I guess culture and following that I just have to dislike Geelong, but I've grown to respect them this year. Getting to meet all the players and meet them outside of footy as well has taught me that they're actually nice guys, and which has annoyed me a little bit.
Yes, pathological hate takes a long time to take out of the system, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, even the first time I met Joel Selwood, he was so pleasant and so lovely, and gave me all the time in the world. And I walked away just thinking, this is not how it was supposed to go. It was supposed to be him being a terrible person. I felt, vindicated knowing that I spent most of my adult life disliking him, but now he's just a lovely guy.
Yeah, you can't have that sort of thing. And I'm going to defer this question to Sienna, because she is, as you would know if you saw the two of us, she is the fashion expert. If you had the choice of going around wearing exclusively navy blue and white or exclusively brown and yellow, which would you choose?
I'm going navy blue and white. Sorry.
Yeah. They're better colours together than the Hawks colours, but there's just that connection to the team and just a recognisable, I guess, look to it. It's I don't know how to explain it, but blue and white, at least the navy blue and white, does look better together. I think just having the white there, but the brown and gold is very close and dear to the heart.
Well, of course, having grown up wearing maroon and blue for much of my life, and then it sort of became bright red in the 70s, that made it reasonably difficult. Enough of that twaddle then. Let's talk a little bit about trades, and because there's been a fair bit of it, and Sienna had a bit of a long run about it earlier. Sienna's has done research, can you believe? She's got a list of the trades in front of it. Let's deal with the clubs that are closest to our heart. We'll start with Geelong, because that's what a lot of people are listening to. Sienna, let's have the ins and outs for Geelong.
Gosh, no pressure. I thought that's what we had Matthew here for.
No, he's going to talk about it. You're going to read them out.
All right. So coming into Geelong, we've got Jack Bowes. Sorry.
Yep.
Ollie Henry joining his brother, and Tanner Braun.
And out?
And out we have Cooper Stevens.
Going off to a team not very far from Hawthorn, I believe.
Yeah, he's coming to the Hawks. I'm very excited to have him. When he got drafted, I was very jealous of the Cats. I mean, being a Colac boy, he's that sort of local talent that grew up as a Hawks fan, so he'd be even more ostracised than I would be down here. But yeah, it's a fantastic trade period for the Cats, isn't it? They starting off with Jack Bowes really nominating to come to the Cats, and with obviously that 7th overall selection at the draft period, to get both of them for a future 3rd round pick is seriously impressive from the Cats. Obviously having to take on Bowes' contract at a reported $1.7 million over the next 2 years is why they've gotten that pick 7 as well. But it's a big move, and being able to flatten out that contract over the next 4 years as well makes it a little bit more accessible for Geelong. But he's a really handy player, Bowes himself. A lot of teams would have wanted that number 7 pick, but Bowes himself is a really talented defender. We'll look to probably fill a midfield spot with the Cats as the midfielders sort of age. Obviously, we see Joel Selwood retiring. Dangerfield's probably likely to spend more time in the forward line, Guthrie. What am I saying? He's obviously had a really good year.
That'd be Cam Guthrie.
Cam Guthrie. Did I say Zach?
Yes, I think you said Zach, but when you were stumbling around, that's okay. It's all good. No, just make sure that we've got the right one. That's all.
Yeah, so Cam obviously coming up a really good season, winning the Carja Greaves. He's been a bit of a one-man show this year. Dangerfield having a bit of injury history, a few injury problems, and then everyone else rotating through means that just trying to regenerate that list and get some younger players in. And Bowes, I think, is going to be a really handy inclusion for that. He'll probably come in and be best 22 straight away, I would imagine. Looking at Tanner Bruin, another first-round pick that they've gotten there from 2 years ago. Obviously, a Geelong boy, played at Newtown and Chilwell. Really talented midfielder forward as well, so he'll come in. I don't think he'll be in the best 22 straight away. He might find a spot in the forward line, or potentially as a sub. But adds really good depth and will be a very long-term sort of play for the Cats. And obviously Ollie Henry being another Geelong boy coming back home. There was a bit of controversy surrounding his contract status and him wanting to move home back down the highway. But he's another really talented player. Just 2 years into his career as a half forward. But talking to Andrew Mackey, the Geelong list manager, a couple of days ago, he sees Henry as potentially playing on the wing or on the half-back flank. They're not really sure exactly where he'll slot in just yet because of his athletic capabilities. He can play around the ground, which is really exciting for the Cats.
Well, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? If you were bringing in, I know he's given it away, but if you bring in Matthew Lloyd, he's going to play at full forward. If you've got a player where they're saying, I'm not really sure where he slots in, that in a way is a good thing because it means that he's obviously capable of playing more than one position, which is pretty important these days. Yeah,
well, he showed that he can play in the forward line, and Geelong's forward structure in 2022 was the best every structure or part of the team was really the best in 2022, the way that they played. But their forward line didn't really have many changes. Once they brought in Tyson Stengel to play that small forward crumbing role, he did that really well. Gary Rowan is, for all his faults, and some people, Geelong fans seem to have a love-hate relationship with him depending on how many touches he gets. But his role isn't to get disposals. He's that sort of marking forward, brings the ball to ground as a medium size and also puts on really good pressure. So that's the sort of role that I would imagine Henry would have coming into the team. But in saying that, I'd love to see him on a wing, especially if Max Holmes comes back in and plays the centre square like I expect him to. I think Henry on a wing would be really awesome to watch, just being a slightly taller winger, not as traditional in that sense, but his ability to run up and down the ground is really exciting, and I think that'll be a really good get long-term as well. He's another one that might not fit into the best 22 straight away, but certainly in a couple of years' time he'll be a really consistent performer for the Cats.
Now we move our attention to the team. This may bring tears in the studio. Sienna, what happened with the Western Bulldogs and their trades in and out?
Yeah, this is a sensitive one. So we did pick up Liam Jones, so he's returned back to the Bulldogs, and Rory Lobb. But unfortunately, we did lose Zane Cordy, Josh Dunkley, Lockie Hunter, and Josh Sash. Shaki, sorry.
Yeah. We learned to love Shaq. When he used to play for us. That's a bit of a whack for the Bulldogs, isn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, it is. There's a number of really good players coming out there. Josh Dunkley sort of headlines that, and he's a really talented inside midfielder. Provides a lot of defensive presence as well around the ball and allows players like Marcus Bontempelli and Jack McRae and even Bailey Smith when he's in there to really hunt the footy. And I think that'll be a bit of a shift for the Bulldogs, trying to, I guess, mitigate his loss, and who they bring into that midfield will be really interesting. But they do have a surplus of midfielders, so I don't think their depth is going to be stretched too far, but he is a really classy player who's probably underrated at the Bulldogs. I think he's one of the better midfielders in the competition. The Lockie Hunter trade was really intriguing. No one really heard about it until the deadline day, really, and then it was announced that he was going for a third-round pick, so I haven't actually heard too much about the reasons behind that, but we obviously know that before round one he was the centre of a bit of controversy, not being named in the side and then being named and then being laid out and then being late back in. So he's an interesting one, how he fits in. I think going to Melbourne he'll be placed on a wing and he'll be really, really good for them at the Ds. And a couple of key defensive players. I think Shaki will play down back at a bit of depth for Melbourne there, but also being able to swing forward will be really good there. And Dane Cordy, I think, is someone who's probably a little bit underrated and undervalued a bit, but he's had a pretty consistent year as well. So some bad losses, but I think getting Liam Jones and Rory Lobb sort of addresses that for now, and getting a few draft picks in as well will certainly try and offset that for the Dogs. But I'm not too sure where Rory Lobb sits. I think their forward line is pretty packed, so I might see him either playing in the ruck or going even to the back line as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bulldogs line up next year.
He talked on the radio or TV or somewhere I saw him the other day. It would have been on the TV if I saw him, wouldn't it? Okay. Clearly, because he wouldn't be seen on the radio. He was thinking that he would probably play forward and be a backup ruckman to Tim English, which sounds a bit to me like he's replacing Steph Martin.
Yeah, and that probably makes the most sense, the way that it looks. But in saying that, their forward line is quite tall as it stands.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamara Ugle-Hagan is a player that is going to come along pretty nicely. You'd think he'd start to make those steps to being a really permanent fixture. Sam Darcy, who they drafted just last year with the overall second pick as father-son selection. He's obviously another key position player, and they'll probably look to try and get him games. Tim English is a really talented ruck, but we saw this year the preference for Luke Beveridge to play two rucks in most games. Will be interesting to see how they decide to play him now. With Rory Lobb, I would imagine that he'd be a backup ruck and probably fit him somewhere on the ground, whether it is forward or back. But forward line definitely makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Only got a couple of minutes left, so we'll slip. I'll try that again. Slip through the Hawks. Who do we have there, Sienna?
So coming in, we have, and again, I'm really sorry if I butcher these names. Carl Amon.
Yep.
Amon. Lloyd Meek.
Yep.
Cooper Stevens.
Yep. We've spoken a bit about Cooper Stevens. The other two?
Yeah. So Lloyd Meek's quite a big bull-looking ruck from Fremantle. He was part of the Jago Mira trade to get him across to the Dockers, which, as a Hawks fan, I sort of understand that premise for him to leave and free up a little bit of salary cap for us. I know that the Hawks are paying the majority of that, but it is still a bit disappointing to see him go. But Meek is, a big ruck. Will certainly add to the depth there for the Hawks. They've got Ned Reeves and Max Lynch at the moment, and obviously Ben McAvoy has just retired, the retiring ruck captain. So he'll fill a void, and whether he plays straight away or adds to that sort of rotation there remains to be seen. I think Cole Amon is a really good pickup for the Hawks, being that outside winger. They don't really have too many sort of wing or fleet of foot players in the midfield. They're all quite big and slow, and I think that's why Tom Mitchell and Jago Mira were traded to their respective clubs of Collingwood and Fremantle, just because they were a bit slow and they didn't have that sort of ball movement that Sam Mitchell clearly wants to play. So I think adding Carl Amon will be really important. And as I said before, Cooper Stevens, I think, is he's 190 centimetres, 192 centimetres. I think he adds a little bit of a different dimension to the midfield there. And I think he's got a really great projected career ahead of him. So I'm really excited to see how he goes.
Excellent. Well, we've only got a few seconds left, so we'll just mention that the Lions picked up Gunston to replace McStay and picked up Dunkley to replace Tom Berry, plus a whole lot of draft picks, with Will Ashcroft, the likely number 1 draft pick, ending up there on father-son as well. I'm pretty happy about that. Matthew Forrest from the Geelong Addy, we do need to get moving. Thank you so much for filling in for Barnesy. I think he's away next week as well, so we might say we can't get you back for another crack if you're interested.
Don't know why you'd want me after that, but I'm more than happy to jump on.
Because the option's Barnesy. Matthew, thanks for joining us. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Matthew Forrest there from the Geelong Advertiser. It is coming up to 10 o'clock. It is time for the weather.